Hey now, Ron Draper here with Energy Control Solutions, the company whose business card you won't lose. And thanks for coming to the 2013 Cochrane Summit up at Soaring Eagle. And Scott asked me to do a little talk on some XL10s, so we moved some stuff around and managed to come up with a few. And he wanted to talk about legacy controllers, things that are old, probably why he picked me, and that's how come I had to take the gray out of mustache this morning. So anywho, looking around here, we have the XL10s, which came out somewhere in the mid-90s, I'm going to say. Maybe the mid to late 90s in there, which means Honeywell was engineering these things back in the early 90s. And when you see some of the things that they do and some of the programs they put in here, it's a phenomenal thing. They were doing all this stuff way back then. These controllers all talk on a LAN bus, which gets into a whole bunch of grief I'm not going to bore you with. But anyway, they do talk. And you can configure these things through the LAN bus with any one of several different tools Honeywell's come up with over the years. Started off with eVision, and then different versions of CARE could do it, and then they went to LANspec, and after they fixed that, they named it RONspec. And then after that, we came out with our old friend, the R2 Jace, and then our new little friend, little Mr. Blue over there. And I'm going to start by talking about couple of different versions of these things. They had something for a fan coil unit, which came with this really neat little hinge device here, so you could mount it right on the fan coil unit and screw it in and out. And that one, if you take the cover, that one will never be the same. But anyway, trust me, that thing there was bulletproof until I did that. These things are about as robust as you can get. I've got oh wow, hopefully we're more robust than that. I've got my favorite, this is the 7751H model. VAV controller, all self-contained with a microprocessor, and it's also got the little micro bridge inside for measuring airflow. And this thing, you put it on, configure it. It works your damper like so. You can integrate this thing and hit various different LAN snippets to do just about any sequence you can imagine. This little tiny thing, way back in the early 90s, are you kidding me? The early 90s, this thing has smoke control, building pressurization, depressurization. You could pressurize, say, a stairway in a tall building with this thing during a fire if you wanted to. It's got demand limiting bumps in it. Can you, in the early 90s they thought of all this stuff, and somehow they did it without my help. But anyway, you can do just about any sequence you can imagine with this thing. Fan powered, various speeds of fans. You can do reheats, you can do staged reheats. You can do it as constant volume. You can do it as pressure dependent, pressure independent. All kinds of things you can do with it. There's also another version of that, which is actually my favorite one of them all. This is the 7751F model. Comes with all sorts of extra inputs and outputs on it, and it's got a separate mounted damper actuator on it. And that's really cool because now you've got a couple extra side loops that you can run, free outputs on this thing, so you could use it not only to do a VAV box, but you could also hit, say, the nearest exhaust fan and get status back onto it out of the same device. Very handy little thing. And you can do a couple other things with it, which I forgot. Oh, I know what it is. Space sensors. You can get space sensors that are sensor only, or you can get this really sexy European set point adjustment knob. And if you want set point adjustment knob and discharge air temp and some other stuff, you need this one here. And it's got a little override button, an LED. It does everything you want. Oh, that'll never be the same either. Anyway, hey, would you believe there are fish in Lake St. Clair that will bite that? There are. We troll this one here sometimes, and that's a whole other story. Anyway, the other thing that I like right here is, hang on a minute. I said Scott wanted somebody that could do legacy stuff. Oh yeah, remote input output device. This one here, you just put it on the LAN bus and you can use it for all sorts of things. Bring in a temperature, bring in a resistor, bang on fans, read statuses of fans, any lights, whatever you want to turn on and off. This thing is just a standard I/O controller, has no brains. Kind of like Honeywell management these days. Anyway, what else do we have? The XL10 line branched off into something called the XL15C at one point. And this is just a standard bulletproof controller. This thing is freely programmable, and its LAN snippets are all pre-configured. All these things, by the way, are Landmark certified, except this one right here. You have to integrate this guy, and that can get a little bit ugly these days. But oh, hey, wait! What are you talking about? That's not Honeywell. Of course not. This thing works, and they'll sell it to anybody that wants to buy it. You can't be in this group. I did want to show you this, though. My favorite part. With each Honeywell space sensor, you get a Honeywell screwdriver. You don't get the screws you need to mount this thing to the wall, but you will get the screwdriver. Which, when you think about it, it's kind of useless when you look at that thing. But when you think about a job that takes, say, 150 of these, you get 150 of these. So what do? At lunch, you pass them out to everybody on the job site, and you will become the guy that's handing out the cool little screwdrivers. Next time you need a ladder moved, or you need some guy to do this or do that, you need help with anything, Social Lubricant. Best thing Honeywell ever came out with. What else we got here? Little lines of valves that you can control with XL10s. Like that. Honeywell, for those of you that don't know, has been around since God's dog was a puppy, and was the original company that made temperature controls way back when. There actually was a guy named Mr. Honeywell. They made everything from, well, still make everything from the most common thermostat in the world, which isn't this one, it's the round version of that one, to all these DVC controllers and all sorts of other gobbledygook. What else? Oh, constant volume air handling unit controller. Which one are you? Here it is. Sorry, Roger. I actually did have one in stock. I forgot. This thing here, great for rooftop units or any air handler that you want to control. They come in 4 different flavors. This one here has actual relay outputs on it, so it's really good for just a standard gas-fired DX rooftop unit. And you can put these things in, configure them in a few minutes. You just set it up with how many stages of heat, how many stages of cool, whether or not it's got an economizer, what kind, does it have a heating coil, a cooling coil, blah, 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 whatever else you want. You can configure and download this thing in a few minutes, and it'll run on indefinitely, probably to the end of the world. And so, anyway, the CVAHU is one of my all-time favorites. The other flavors it comes in has analog outputs for a chilled water valve or a hot water valve, and then there's a couple other options for stuff you'll probably never use. And I think that's pretty much about it for XL10s. I don't know, anybody got any questions? I know what it is. You remember a few years ago when all the banks and Goldman Sachs and all those guys failed? Well, Honeywell, in their infinite wisdom, went out and hired all those MBAs to come and write their new business plan. So in their infinite wisdom, they're probably going to do away with all this stuff because it just works so good. And they're going to come up with something that they probably won't sell to the rest of us. But anyway, I digress. So if you do happen to come across any one of the Honeywell VPs at this summit, feel free to roll up a newspaper and whack them over the head with it once in a while. Maybe we'll get through to them so you guys will keep on selling to your 20-year valid customers. That's it.